I am standing here at what's now known as Baconsfield Park. Well, this park has an interesting history, a very interesting history. Although now it's built up, but it used to be a park for whites only. As a matter of fact, it was owned by a guy named Augustus Bacon, and I think he acquired it somewhere around in 1910 or 11. And, but he had in his will that he wanted this park to be designated for whites only. Now, for white folks, this was a very, very pleasurable park. They had a zoo, they had a swimming pool, they had tennis courts, they had outdoor areas, and people used to come and just lavish in it. White folk. And in his will, he said he wanted it for whites only, and for about 40 years. It remained, for whites only. But then somehow the city was connected with it, and this was back during the 1960s. People said, wait a minute. This is supposed to be a public park. The city is part of it. So, it ought to be for everybody. That was back during the days of segregation and integration during the 60s. So that was, they went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the plaintiff won in the Supreme Court, but then it was appealed by the people the heirs, and then it reverted back to the heirs. And then so rather than making it a public park, they decided they didn't want to create no park where black folks and white folks would go together. So they just kind of let it grow up and grow up. And then so finally it became this shopping center, and you got apartments back there. I think it's ironic. It's said that the property that Baconsfield was housed and located on was once owned by a black man who used to be a slave by the name of Free Saul. And somehow, because of some kind of mix-up or what have you, people not being honest, then the property reverted or converted or was sold to Augusta Bacon, and he created Baconsfield. And he says, and it says in the concrete marker that was on the park, that he wanted it for white boys, white girls, and white women, and to enjoy, into perpetuity. So they said the proof is in the pudding. Here's this marker. We can't forget the efforts of our ancestors and those people back in the 60s who fought for our civil rights. This concrete marker indicates what they were up against, but in spite of all those bad odds, they were able to, to at least try to get the park integrated. And since they didn't want to integrate it, then it grew up, and now it's a commercial location, as you have seen. So I'm Alex C. Havisham. I'm the publisher of the Macon, Middle Georgia Black Pages, have been published for over 35 years. And my advice to you, and hey, you see all of this history. My advice to you before I tell you something else is that, we have to be involved, and we all have a role to play in uplifting our community and preserving our history. So my second piece of advice is don't just stand there, do something. Let's get it fixed in 2026.